Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and today I'm looking at a book which comes to us from LexisNexis Family Law, and it's on the very difficult subject of domestic abuse, law and practice. Now in the 7th edition, it's been written by Roger Bird, who will be known to many of you as a former district judge. As you know, LexisNexis Family Law were the publication group who took over what was the Jordan's publishing Family Law imprint, and we really would have difficulties doing our work without the substantial help that we get from both the publishing house itself and the knowledge of the authors, so it does help us. Now Elizabeth and I talked about the title of this book, and we gave the book review title the following one: Domestic Violence, the Problem is Not Getting Any Better, says Roger Bird. And he's right, so read the 7th edition now. Let's have a look at the book first of all. The purple cover, you see it there, there's the spine, and then there you've got the back of it. It's a light book, it's paperback, 288 pages. The index at the back, to go with many Lexis publications, is actually by paragraph numbering. It's not a particularly brilliant, brilliantly long index, but obviously that's how you would find things. I've found the book, using it, to be actually quite easy. Now the appendices are very important, and I'm going to mention one of them in particular in a few minutes, because I think it's important that you certainly aware of it, as I am, because of changes. There's the front page there, and then after that we've got the blurb from Lexis, and then there's some information from the author dated June 2018, and I'll refer to him again in a few minutes. That's the contents section there, running all the way through. You should find everything you're really looking for in reasonable detail here. You can see the chapter numbers running through, and then you've got chapter 10, future developments. Well, we're waiting for a few changes again, but we're going to have a long wait, I think. Then you've got the appendices, and again you've got the references to the family procedurals, the FPR, and of course the practice directions. And 12J is the one I will talk about. Then you've got abbreviations, and then you've got the statutes, which are always useful to have a look at. You've got some statutory instruments. Then you've got the table of cases, quite a few cases. Then you start into the book, how to use the book, chapter 1. Always read that, because although this is very much the house style of LexisNexis, it does help if you have some idea of how the book is structured and how it runs through. And then you get, of course, to the statutes and the appendices at the back. More of that a little later. Let me tell you about the book, because I found it helpful. I do a bit of this work, and it's always useful to know what's available. Clearly, you will probably need access to the Red Book as well, depending on what you're actually doing. There is some case law in this area, but I think I have to say, as many judges will indicate to you, I'm sure, the problem you do have in this area is that no one case is really alike, and the case law is not necessarily as effective as a precedent as it might be in other areas of law. That's only my personal view, but I do think that there is some sense in taking that line, because you have to look very much at the personal circumstances of the individual people. Now, what do we say about the book? Well, we say this: for many practitioners in family law, the matter of domestic violence remains centre stage in 2018. Without reforms we urgently need to be applied to the issue, instead of all the tinkering at the procedural edges. Now, I know that's a fairly substantial criticism, and I will justify it. We welcome the new 7th edition of Domestic Violence, Law and Practice by Roger Bird, published, of course, as I've said, by LexisNexis Family Law. It's the single most useful addition to this edition, when Bird has added a most useful new piece of information on Practice Direction 12J. In the main work, and also in the Annex, because he actually sets out the Annex from the PD from Sir James Mumby. Now, at the very least, it does help both the unrepresented party and the advisor keep up to date whilst we wait and wait for the promised reforms. This 7th edition has been thoroughly revised with recent case law authorities, thus saving us a lot of time as practitioners looking up publications like Family Law, another excellent LexisNexis service for us, and of course the practice book itself. Now, what we found most helpful for 2018 was the careful analysis of current procedural developments in a clear format for the uninitiated. Bird's purpose is to give us an up-to-date short account of the remedies available now and what will be available soon. The title is particularly aimed at the family law practitioner, whether one is a lawyer, an advice worker or a public official. And I think it will also be of great support to those at Citizens Advice and to women's rights groups involved in personal protection, harassment and domestic abuse. And we hope the book will be widely available in their offices and in public reference libraries also. Of course, family law practitioners owe a great deal of gratitude to LexisNexis, which is obviously taken over the family law imprint from original works by Jordans of Bristol, who continued, of course, under the new remit with LexisNexis to provide us with much needed practical information at a time of much needed change. And it's sad to report that what Bird says remains true. The problem is not getting any better. What is clear, he says, is that while there is a continuing effort to deal with the scourge of domestic abuse, the fact that the source of the problem lies deep in human nature makes this a Sisyphean task. He also harks back to what he calls the ill-fated Family Law Act of 1996. So let's be clear where the blame lies for the failures to deal with this form of abuse properly. Parliament and the political parties, because of what happened in 1996. And bearing in mind we're now in 2018, you would have expected something to be done, but it hasn't yet. Let me conclude by saying that there is a glimmer of hope, however, with this final observation from the author, quote, "Judges and rulemakers do their best to ensure that courts and law enforcement agencies are continuously aware of the scale of the problem." I'm going to say yes, they are aware. Frankly, Parliament isn't properly aware of the extent of domestic abuse in our society today, and that's where the problem is. So we have Roger Bird's revised text as the best current help available at the moment. A big thank you for continuing to give us this excellent advice. It makes our task just a bit easier, because these cases are not the easiest in the world by any means. And when you have the fact finding and you have to uncover what really happens, then when you're the judge make the decision, there obviously can be very great pressures to get the right answer and to make sure that all factors are taken into account. So a big thank you to all. The law is as stated in June 2018, and the book was published on the 25th of July 2018. Let me just have one last look at it with you. There it is again. There's the front, the spine and the back. And just opening it up in the middle, you can see where it starts. Just trying to find the statutes itself. You can see, after future developments, you can see that basically it's almost half and half again. You've got half which is the book and half which are the statutes. The statutes, of course, being the legislation and the PDs, but you've got 10 main chapters. You've got some suggestions for changes, but I think the importance of this book is that it's actually for people who are in practice and may need some additional indication with a particularly awkward brief as to how to go about a particular instruction. So thank you to everybody concerned, and in particular to Lexis for taking the book under their wing. Very grateful to all of you. Bye bye.